manager. That's a term that I am personally not familiar with. What else have we got? Pinta in Oslo, Marianne from Geneva. Awesome, guys. Wonderful that you're all here.
Okay. So I think we're just going to get started. Everyone seems to be on Zoom and hopped on the Miro as well. I am seeing a lot of new faces, so I'll just introduce the Green Sprint and sustainability session first a bit. So we as the Green Sprint, that's me and Pamela, we are focused on helping companies with sustainable innovations, and we do this through creative processes and innovation processes. And we are obviously completely 100% focused on sustainability, and that is why we organize monthly sustainability sessions, where we not only go into a discussion with an interesting professional or entrepreneur who is focused on sustainable development or anything related to sustainability, but we also always try to get our participants more familiar with some creative thinking exercises or any other type of exercise that could be useful and that can help you to create more sustainable impact. And that's exactly what we're going to do as well today. So today will be a bit different from normal sessions. Normal sessions, we are very much focused on creative exercises, where today we're going to dive a bit deeper into systems thinking, but definitely also some creativity involved there. And for today, we have a pretty awesome guest speaker on board, actually. And I met him a couple months ago. It's Russ Avery, also well known as the sustainability marketing guy. Russ is waving right now. And we met a while ago, and we have since then been speaking about sustainability quite a lot, mostly through the comment section of LinkedIn, actually. And I was surprised by his not only his energy when it comes to sustainability, but also the amount of businesses he is involved in. And it is actually the first serial eco-entrepreneur that I met. So I'm quite stoked about having him here today as our guest speaker. I'm sure it will be super interesting. So Ross started a couple of businesses focused on fast fashion, of course, sustainability marketing, but also a creative agency, and he's focused on communications as well. I'm sure Ross can explain this all a lot better, so we'll dive into this a bit later. So actually, it's quite of a trivial question, I know, but like I'm super curious. How did you become Russ, the sustainability marketing guy?
The honest answer is completely by accident, which is hopefully quite interesting for some people. So I graduated university with a degree in languages. I did French and Russian at the University of Exeter, and I had no desire whatsoever to be like a teacher, an interpreter, or a translator. So that was really useful. And it was a recession when I graduated, so I did various temp jobs for a while, and nothing really worked out. And I wasn't, I hadn't found my groove. I wasn't passionate about anything. So I really took a step back this was in like 2008, and thought, okay, what do I actually want to do here? And all roads just led me to getting any job that I could that was something to do with like nature and the environment, because it's just something I've always been really passionate about. So even though I had nothing to show for it by way of my educational background or qualifications, I made it my mission in life to get my foot in the door with some sort of company or charity who was protecting the environment in some way. So all the CVs got sent out, and I was lucky enough to get a job for a small ocean conservation charity called SeaWeb. And that is where my journey began, because I started with SeaWeb as a kind of general administrator, helping out with all the different programs that those guys were involved in, which was everything to do with sustainable seafood to ocean acidification and really interesting topics like that. But it was in 2010, and this great thing called social media was just kind of really coming to the fore and picking up, and businesses were starting to get on board and use channels like Twitter and LinkedIn and YouTube and stuff. So the charity was really keen in learning how to do all that. So I volunteered because I was interested in it. And yeah, I kind of fell into marketing by mistake. So I'm actually a completely self-taught marketer who found his kind of groove through kind of luck and serendipity, and being in the right place at the right time and having a proactive approach and stuff. So then I upskilled myself more formally and took some great online courses and became Google Squared certified and various other courses. And 10 years later, here I am, because that was back in 2010. So yeah.
And from there, you moved into quite a couple of different directions as well. You moved into renewability, which is a fast fashion brand that is completely something else again. Like, you seem to be sort of a sustainability.
It's a sustainable fashion brand, the opposite of a fast fashion brand.
Oh, sorry. Sustainability message. Yeah, that was what I was talking about. It's bizarre.
I knew what you meant.
It's bizarre how ingrained these kind of terms are already. Like, I know you're into sustainable fashion and you're still going with the term fast fashion because that's just what we're used to. It might also be like one of the problems and one of the things you can tackle with sustainable marketing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, renewability is a little side hustle / hobby that I do with my business partner, Tim. And actually, it all came about after a trip to Amsterdam, which I think I remember telling you about, Mini. So I was in Amsterdam for a green building conference with one of my clients. And on my last day before getting the Eurostar back to London, I visited the Fashion for Good Interactive Museum in Amsterdam. And it just completely blew my mind. Like, that, it's amazing there. If anyone's in Amsterdam, they should definitely go. So you kind of walk around this interactive museum and you learn all about the environmental and social impacts of the fast fashion industry, which is the second most polluting industry after like aviation and maritime combined or something. It's just crazy. And then again, through chance, really, I found the T-Mill platform, which is the platform that Renewability runs off, which is run by a large sustainable fashion brand called Rapa Nui. And it was just so easy to get started that it was the perfect opportunity to kind of set up a little side hustle, but also make zero money from it, and just just use it as a tool to actually teach other people about the perils of fast fashion, which is now totally what Renewability has turned into. Like, we haven't made a sale since like April or something, because we don't push anything at all. We just use the social media channels as a way to clue other people up about the fashion revolution, which is just something we're really passionate about. And like you said, Mini, marketing just fell into that perfectly, because actually it's just about how we can communicate the message in the most creative way possible to get buy-in from, the average consumer around the world. And I'm happy to say that it works. And it's why I love what I do, because when people hear the facts about fashion and how much water is involved, and how just unnatural the process of growing cotton at such a fast pace and at such a massive scale is, and the whole social side, like who made their clothes, what are the factory conditions that they work in. So for anyone that doesn't know, the fashion revolution movement really came to the fore after a huge factory in Bangladesh collapsed called the Rana Plaza factory. And it just really made people aware of the terrible conditions that most people that make our clothes are actually working in. Unfortunately, modern slavery is still very prevalent in the fashion industry. So slavery still exists today. It just looks very different than it did 200 years ago. But in industries like fast fashion, it's still very much there. So yeah, Renewability, sorry, I'm probably going off on a major tangent here, but yeah, Renewability is a great vehicle for what I do as a marketer and helping to try and raise awareness of, one, actually in some respects quite small aspect of sustainability, but in other respects quite a big aspect because of the huge detrimental impact that fashion has on the environment.
You said actually something very interesting, and it reminded me of something that you said a while ago. So you mentioned you didn't really make a sale since April. And it struck me that you actually advise people to not buy anything. Although you do have a sustainable fashion brand, and that really made me believe in you. I was like, okay, this guy has like the right idea of what sustainability is. I just wonder as well, like, what does sustainability really mean to you as the term itself?
Yeah, so thank you for asking that, actually, Mina, because it's reminded me of something. So yeah, you're absolutely right. So, you know, we do the worst marketing ever for our own fashion label, but there's a very good reason for that. And that's actually because we look to our peers, like brands like Patagonia and stuff. And what we tell people is, you know, don't buy our t-shirts or our hoodies unless you were already in the market for a new t-shirt or hoodie anyway, because in which case then, yeah, sure, look at us because we're a more sustainable option than your average high street brand. But actually, you know, can you make use with what you already own, which most people, you know, a lot of people have like spare clothes that they haven't worn in ages, etc. Or can you participate in a clothes swapping event, or can you buy from a charity shop first? It's almost like buy from us as a last resort if you really, really need that new t-shirt or hoodie, or you're buying a present for someone. But otherwise, you know, you can actually be doing a lot better, which is to, yeah, make better use of what you already own, et cetera, et cetera. So sustainability to me is exactly that. It's about resource use at the end of the day, and not buying what you don't need. So it's about consuming less in all areas of our lives. You know, consuming less of certain food types, as we all know, like in terms of meat and dairy, for example. Just buying less stuff, whether it's, I don't know, DVDs or clothes or literally anything. Like, all these things are using natural resources, and our demand for them is what has a detrimental impact on the environment. So it's very hard to sum up sustainability in such a short way. And I know we're going to talk more about interconnectedness and stuff later, which I'm super excited about, as you know. But yeah, in a nutshell, it's really about consuming less and lessening our impact on the planet as a result.
And this, if someone drops it in the comments as well, this is what is very confusing to many people, and also probably quite confusing to someone who is in marketing and sustainability, because marketing is actually about like getting consumers to consume more, where sustainability is about buying less. You see now as well, like many companies jumping on the opportunity of green products, and often goes in the direction of greenwashing. I can imagine that being in sustainable marketing has quite some pitfalls. What is your experience with this?
So that's a really interesting question. And I've been asked a lot if there's a massive disconnect in what I say I do with sustainability marketing, because as people have rightly pointed out in the comments, sustainability is about consuming less, and marketers are horrible people because they just get people to buy more stuff that they don't really want or need. So I do marketing for brands which deserve to have the volume turned up because of the services or that they sell. Because I should have said, by the way, I predominantly work with B2B service-based companies, not consumer goods-based companies. So I'm helping sustainability consultancies, for example, to market themselves better and their services better so that they can do more of the great work that they do to make the world a better place. Because I work with sustainability consultancies who work with varying sectors, like the commercial real estate sector, which is huge because buildings account for 40% of global carbon emissions. So we absolutely have to create a greener building stock and make our existing buildings much greener. So I help sustainability consultancies like that to market themselves better so that they can win more work and do more good work. So that's the kind of marketing that I do. The pitfalls of sustainability marketing, I mean, it's just the risk of greenwash, basically. That is the big one. So greenwash, I'm sure most of you guys know what greenwash is, but it's greenwash is making inaccurate or sometimes just completely false claims in your marketing effort to try and make you sound more sustainable or environmentally friendly than you really are. And an example of greenwash, to put it into context, which I always use, is actually one that's quite recent. So it's from 2020, and it's a campaign that Shell, the oil company, ran, called the Shell Go Plus campaign, which was trying to tell people that you could drive carbon neutral by using Shell Go Plus fuel, because every time you bought that fuel, which cost a little bit more money, they would plant some trees, which is just the biggest load of nonsense ever. And if you're not quite sure why that is, well, it's because you cannot offset carbon emissions from driving your petrol or diesel car by planting trees. That's not how offsetting works. It's something, but trees have to be left alone and grow to maturity over decades to absorb anywhere near the amount of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and that kind of thing. So the Shell Go Plus campaign is a perfect example of greenwash, and happily that one got reported to the Advertising Standards Authority, and it subsequently they got told they had to remove it. So that's also a great example of consumers being able to drive change, and it's also an example of how conscious consumerism is on the increase, and that companies can't get away with greenwash as easily as they used to be able to, because happily, and maybe it's not happening as quickly as possible, but we have to take the wins when we can. The general knowledge of the average person around climate change, I think is increasing, which is great. And I think this year has been, it's been happening more than ever due to COVID, because we'll probably talk about this a bit later as well when we talk about the wolves video, but nature can actually regenerate at a very fast rate if it's left alone. But we'll come on to that later, so I'll leave it there for now.
There are actually some interesting questions in the chat as well.
Yeah, I just noticed one actually. It's pretty long, but I'm just going to read it out loud to you. Are there any techniques you use to strike a balance between breaking even as a business, helping on the marketing front, in relation to general consuming less or putting less in the supply chain? And in a way, is consuming more eco-friendly products also, does it offset the rate of production and degradation of these products? So I don't know if you, so actually I think what is meant there is like, how do you balance out what kind of eco-friendly products you sell and how much of those do you want to sell? And can you figure out, I would say, can you figure out the decrease of uncircular or unsustainable products? This almost goes into the direction of life cycle analysis, I would say. I'll just let you answer it.
Okay, thanks for that.
It's a bit of a tricky one.
So I am by no means a life cycle analysis expert, but to try and answer that question as best as I can in my own way. Okay, so buying eco-friendly products, depending on what the product is and stuff, is still using natural resources more often than not, and it still might have a detrimental impact on the environment. It might just be that that's a lot less than a more traditional product that we're used to, but we need the shift to happen so that those products are the ones which are bought way more often at scale than the really, really bad ones which we see on our shelves, because that is how the change is going to happen. So while I'm there as the owner of a tiny sustainable fashion label saying, actually, don't buy our clothes, if you can afford to, just use what you've already got or participate in clothes swaps instead and buy from charity shops. Actually, of course, if loads of people did decide to buy from renewability over your average high street brand, then that's overall going to be a good thing still. And I use good loosely because, like I said, our clothes are still using cotton, so it still had to be produced. And yes, they're grown much more effectively and they use way less water, and they can be recycled and made into new garments at the end of their life, because all our clothes have a QR code in the label where you can send it back to the factory so that it gets turned into a new garment. But it's still not great. So the balance is just, first of all, yeah, this was a really hard question, by the way. So the balance is, first of all, we have to get mass adoption of the products which are way better and more sustainable and are zero waste, and all the other good things like organic and vegan and plastic free, so that the change then happens. Because as the consumers, we hold so much power, and I think people forget that sometimes. So we need to use our wallets, because we forget that we vote every single day, right? Yeah, sure, of course we vote in elections and we vote for the best choice that there is, which is sometimes really depressing, but we vote every day with our wallets based on the stuff that we buy. Like, we hold that power. I think I saw Justin drop in the comments about Tony's Chocolonely. So they're a great brand, which is really weird. When things happen and then suddenly you start seeing them all over the place. So I only found about Tony's Chocolonely like a couple of weeks ago, and since then, like, we got sent a free bar in like an online shop that we did, and then Justin's just mentioned them now.
They're a great brand. Like, I couldn't live without it. It's the only stuff that I buy. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was amazing chocolate as well.
It is. It's great.
So we have to, the balance is so important, but I think, unfortunately, the reality is that we're not quite there yet before having that conversation, because actually we need to get the average consumer to buy less and buy more sustainable when they do buy. And there's pressure on the brands, just in case anyone's going to mention this, because it's definitely true, in that for a lot of products which are more sustainable, there is unfortunately still a cost factor into it, where they are often more expensive. So actually a lot of people can't afford to shop more sustainably and ethically, because they're low income households who just simply, that is not an option for them. It's the last thing on their mind. They're just trying to buy stuff to survive and feed their families. They're not thinking about whether something's organic or not. So maybe that's a nice segue into the importance of innovation in sustainability, because actually the better the innovation we have, the more sustainable products people are going to come up with, and hopefully they can be launched to market at a price point which is similar or maybe even better than their less sustainable counterparts.
There's a whole conversation in the chat box going on about like buying less and the balance of yeah. So where do we balance it out? Not only from the consumer perspective, as in what you just said, when do people have the opportunity to even buy more sustainable products? They vote with their wallet, but they also need the option to be able to do this. But we also have a habit lately that we are shaming companies for earning money from building sustainable products or going into the sustainable direction. Not because they don't want to be, because it's not that they want to become sustainable, but for them it's just financial gains. And sustainability can be a financial gain. And someone in the group is also asking, if a business is doing this, if a business is into the sustainability sphere and goes into sustainable production just because of financial benefits, is this a bad thing? Should we shame them for this? Or is this something that we maybe should come over, and we need this adaptation time of a couple of years where we just have companies who will be doing this?
Wow, interesting question. Well, I think actually maybe the answer is easier than I thought, because if they are really just going into that new market or creating that new sustainable product for profit, then that is surely not a good thing, because it's about creating the sustainable products where your ultimate goal in setting up that new business model or that new business or that new product line is hopefully to put people and planet above or on a par with profit. So I'm going to drop a phrase which a lot of you will have heard, which is like B corporations. So if you want to become a certified B Corporation, which is something that my business wants to do, and we're going to do it really soon while we're still small, when it will be easier, you are saying legally, and you get audited for it, that you are a business which puts people and planet above profit. So there's no hiding. So companies might be able to launch a new product line and they might be able to say it's sustainable. I would also say, more often than not, depending on which company that is, if they've got no history of doing it, they're the companies that we have to be careful of, that they're not just pushing greenwash down our throats, because they actually, unless they've got that great in-house expertise and their own sustainability consultants, or they're engaging a sustainability consultancy to help them, they probably know very little about sustainability, and they're just trying to jump on the bandwagon. So they probably don't know much about supply chain sustainability, life cycle analysis, all those different things that we've mentioned. So we need to be careful. If they are legitimate and they're doing it because they've recognized an avenue to make money, to make revenue and profit, but actually their intentions are in the right place, well, they've got to survive as well. And actually there's the whole, I don't know if anyone's mentioned it in the comments yet, they probably have, because it's on fire in the comments, but there's the whole economical side, which is that companies employ people, and we have to remember the economy when we talk about sustainability. So yeah, sorry, I don't know if I've answered it again, but
that's okay. That was kind of a tricky one as well. I actually, we have been going very fast through the time, and I really want to go towards the systems thinking part of this conversation, because when we had our preparation call, sorry for the noise in the background. I tried to look for the most silent spot in this whole building, but they started counting money next to me, which is a bit ironic, but that is the weird rattling sound that you're hearing. When we were on a preparation call, I asked you what is the what when it comes to sustainability is what you love the most about it, what do you love to talk most about it? And you mentioned connectedness, and then introduced me to an amazing video. And it's a video that's called How Wolves Change Rivers, and I think it's best if you introduce it to everyone, because it's pretty cool. So I would say fire away, because
okay.
I was blown away by it.
Awesome. So that was my intention. So that's really good. So I share this video with absolutely everyone. I think I might have shared it with you, Justin. But anyway, it's my favorite video, and it sums up perfectly in 4.5 minutes why I love nature so much, and how I find it really hard to kind of empathize with people who don't care about the natural world. So I will do my very best to summarize the video, but we'll drop the link in, obviously, and everyone can watch it in their own time. So it's called How Wolves Change Rivers, and it's all about something called Trophic Cascades, which is an ecological process that starts right at the top of the food chain, and it works its way right down to the bottom, but it has the most amazing knock-on effects that you just don't expect when you're new to the subject. It's incredible. So the example of the video, How Wolves Change Rivers, is all about Yellowstone National Park in America, and how when wolves were reintroduced in 1995 or something, it had the most incredible knock-on effects that they could never have expected. So yes, they knew they wanted to rewild and reintroduce a formerly native species to the park, but they had no idea just quite how amazing it was going to be. So we all know that wolves kill animals, but what we probably don't know is actually how much life that they bring to other animals and to the rest of the park. So wolves have been absent for about 70 years in Yellowstone National Park. And the first most obvious direct consequence of that was that the deer population in the park was huge. And it was unnaturally huge, because the wolves had been taken away because of what man had done, right? So the park was overgrazed with lots of overgrazed areas due to the huge deer populations. So the overgrazing of vegetation was like at scale due to the unnaturally high numbers of deer in the park. And then wolves arrived in 1995 when they reintroduced them. And sure, they killed some deer, but actually that's the obvious bit. The deer's behavior changed. So the deer started avoiding the spots in the park where they could be trapped more easily by the wolves and killed. So where the wolves were hunting them, they started avoiding those areas because they now had a predator to start avoiding, which had been absent for 70 years. So they started avoiding the valleys and the gorges where the wolves could like easily trap them and kill them. And those places started to regenerate. And actually they started to regenerate very quickly. So new vegetation started growing, new tree species started growing. And the height of some trees like quintupled or something in only 6 years. Just incredible what nature was doing when it was like left alone to act naturally like it would have done if the wolves had been there all this time. With the new tree species and the new density of the forests, more birds started to arrive in Yellowstone National Park, and also more beavers, which eat the trees. Now, beavers by themselves are also incredible ecosystem engineers, right? They build dams in the rivers. Now, those dams in themselves provide habitat for loads of other animals like otters and other types of rodents like rats and mice, ducks, fish, reptiles. Just incredible. Okay, so the beavers are back now because of the new forests. They're now making their dams again, which is making an increase in the number of all those other species. Something else that happened was the wolves killed more coyotes. So rabbit and mice populations also increased to more natural levels. As a result of that increase, more hawks and weasels and foxes started appearing in the park as well, and their numbers went up because they now had more rabbits and mice to feed on. There was more carrion in the park through all the new dead animals that were being killed. More carrion led to more bald eagles and ravens arriving in the park, and also bears, which were not only feeding on the carrion, but all the new berries from the new regenerated forests that were appearing. And I know what you're all thinking. How on earth did the rivers change, Russ? Okay, so this is where it gets super exciting, right? Because the rivers, well, firstly, how did the rivers change? Well, they started meandering less through the park. There was less bank erosion from the riverbanks collapsing. The channels of the rivers became narrower. And how did all this happen? Well, it's because the new forest that was regenerated after the deers moved away and all the other things that I've just told you about helped to reinforce the riverbanks through its natural root systems, which makes the banks much stronger, and it takes water runoff from the mountains much longer to reach into the river. So the banks collapsed less as a result. There was less soil erosion elsewhere in the park, like on the plains leading up to the rivers from the change in the grazing patterns of the deer. So in a nutshell, because you're going to watch the video for yourselves, the reintroduction of a few wolves to Yellowstone National Park in the mid-1990s had, well, I was going to say change, but it transformed not only the ecosystem, but actually the whole physical geography of the park. So that is my summary of the video that you can watch yourselves, but that is one of the best examples that I've ever come across for not only why I love nature, but to teach people, and especially our kids, the interconnectedness of everything, literally everything. Because actually, you know, we humans are, on the one hand, quite tiny and insignificant, because you know we're just a part of nature. But the problem, of course, is what we're actually doing with the power that we wield to the world. So, yeah, how wolves change rivers. Check it out. It'll blow you away. You'll love it. And then come back and tell me how good a job I did of telling the story.
I think you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. Yeah, blown away again. It's such an amazing story. It was really coincidental as well that you showed it to me. I didn't know about it. Where last week I was with actually someone in the Zoom call as well, doing an innovation process focused on how can we show kids their impact in the world, and how can we learn them connectedness. So we built a sort of a connected dots game for kids, and then you showed me this. I was like, just show kids this. I mean, it's sorted.
Yeah, I played on the video. It's great.
Yeah, we're good to go. We're good to go. We actually wanted to move on as well, and then come back to this conversation. The original planning for the rest of the evening was to do like a small. It's called musical chairs, but it's not musical chairs because clearly we're online and we're talking about systems thinking. But Pamela will tell you a bit more about this. And then we wanted to move on to another exercise, a systems thinking exercise. But there's so many questions in the chat box, and there's such a lively discussion going on that we think that it would be more interesting to just sort of jump into an open discussion. So first go on to Miro, so you have a little bit of a experience with this anyways, and then come back here to have a more of an open discussion around all of these topics, because it would be a shame to already like stop it and put everyone in breakout rooms when the chat box is so fired up. So I am gonna give it over for now to Pamela, and then we'll go back to you after the exercise.
Yeah. All right. Amazing story, Ross. Thank you. So yeah, the game that we wanted to play, that I wanted to play, was actually meant to go before the interview with you, Ross. But that's okay. We can do that now. It's a nice little break in between. And another thing occurred to me while you were telling this story about the wolves. Is there is another version of this story which is not about nature, but is actually about humans who do not understand this way of working in nature and in systems, which is it's a true story back in the 50s, where the World Health Organization made a pretty big mistake, which they then had to correct. I'm not sure, is anybody familiar with that story? It's called Operation Cat Drop. Silly enough, it's a very silly name. I'll drop the video. There's a YouTube video of it as well, and it's your story, but in reverse and in a different way. So the short version is that the people of the region of Borneo, were having a really big malaria problem, and so in attempt to help them, the World Health Organization, they wanted to reduce the mosquito population, so they sprayed the insecticide DDT all over, and then. Let me see what the thing was. It had not just killed the mosquitoes, so they were successful, but they'd also killed a certain wasp population with the same insecticide. And those wasps, in turn, were eating a certain amount of certain caterpillars that were left alone after that, because there were no more wasps to eat the caterpillars. So they started destroying the roofs, eating the roofs of the population there, and more insects that were also infected with the poison were eaten by the geckos. So the geckos were infected. And so they weren't metabolizing very fast. I'm just looking at the, yeah, let me see. Yeah, so the geckos were hunted and eaten by the cats. So then the cats were, then they lost all the cats on Borneo. So what they ended up doing, I'm telling the story in a really weird way. What they ended up doing is they ended up literally parachuting a bunch of live cats into Borneo to eat the geckos again and to restore the balance in the ecosystem so it could return to normal, it's an insane story. But I'll drop the YouTube video about it as well. There's a little YouTube video that explains it way better than I can, and way better than Russ did his stories. This was very impromptu. So that said, I'll take you over, guys, to the Miro board again. And if you can all jump back on the Miro board, would you like me to share the link again? I'll pop it back in the bottom, because I think maybe not everyone is there. There you go. And in the left lower corner, you see musical chairs and a circle with lovely colored spots and dots. So feel free to type in your name on one of the colored dots that you see there. Yes, exactly, Boudewijn. There's a lot of these similar stories when humans intervene and not take into calculation the effects of the unintended consequences, basically, is what we would call it in systems thinking. Let's see if there are enough. So this exercise that I'm doing with you, we usually do this as an icebreaker, and this is the first time that I'm doing it online. So it's an interesting experiment that we're running with you. It's a fairly quick icebreaker exercise to show the power of interconnectedness. So if everybody has, oh, John is already preempting what's going to happen. For now, stay in the circle if you can. All right, has everybody picked a circle? Let's see, I see some people writing. All right. Do we need more circles? Just let me know. We're good.
Ross, I already gave you a circle up front. It's the bright yellow one.
Yeah, thanks.
Your bright little sunshine. Yeah, but what does that say about Minu and my relationship, that she gave me the gray spots? I'm not sure about that.
I'm so sorry.
Anyway, no worries. It's okay. No worries. You know I'm anything but gray, so that's fine.
It's Justin speaking. What color am I? I can't quite tell with this thing.
You get to pick your own color, Justin.
Well, I've sort of picked a sort of maroon purpley
Oh,
color.
there you are. Is it, I would say raspberry?
Yeah,
maybe?
raspberry, but where my mouse is around my name, is it actually doing anything?
I think it's raspberry. No, it's not doing anything.
No, this is what I thought. I'm not sure how to make it do something.
Okay. So what we're going to do now, because I see that most people have picked a dot, is for now, you're going to look at the people in the circle, and you're going to, in your mind, pick two people in that circle, two names. Randomly select two names. Don't tell them anything about it. And so if everybody does that, then you pick up your own dot and you start moving it around the board. Your job is to form a triangular shape with the other two people that you have picked randomly. So usually there's a lot of consternation happening as everybody's going to move around now. Maybe we should have some music with this. It feels very quiet.
It's called musical chairs for a reason, right?
I know. I'm just putting on some jazz music on my earphones. Can you hear my lovely jazz music?
Yes. Now we definitely need cocktails.
I know, now we need cocktails. It's interesting how people keep moving. Now let's see what happens if I move mine again.
Oh.
Did you see what just happened?
This is very good. I've done this for real in the classroom, so to speak.
Yes, exactly, Justin. Yes, as if this is the first time I'm trying it out online. So I really wanted to see if this would work in an online environment. But I guess it kind of does, doesn't it? It's so if you will, Justin, what's your insight from this? What do you see happening?
Oh, well, it's good fun. You sort of just see the different groupings. You can sort of roughly work out who has selected who. And it's great when you suddenly realize you're kind of out of sync and you have to go and find someone else. So yeah, it's good. It's great. It makes you think, and it's a nice bit of fun. And it's interesting to see how they're sort of clustering in one area, which mathematically may make sense. I'm trying to work that one through.
Yeah, we seem to be ending up in sort of a pyramid almost. It also shows that like which kind of size people choose for their triangles. I'm very curious.
So the closer we get to each other, the easier it often is.
What happens?
It's easier to stay close.
If I delete myself now, then?
Yeah, look, so that's the next level.
Unless nobody is following me, that will be a bit sad, of course. Yeah. I think that's actually what's happening now.
That's okay. It happens. So what you see is you see all this movement where everybody's trying to figure out everybody's following someone else. So it needs time to establish a balance within that system. So then if one person moves, I'm not sure if anybody's following me, but if one element in the system starts moving, then maybe other people have to start moving again as well. So that's the same way within, especially with the story that Russ has just told us as well. If you take out, especially biodiversity, if you take out one element, the entire system is going to change. So it's a great way, and especially when you do it in an offline environment where these are actual people and like rumbling around each other and trying to make sense out of it all, to get a bit of it's like a physical sensation of how everything is interconnected to each other. Yeah, so that was good fun. Thank you for playing along with that. On that note, so yeah, if you ever get the chance to be this close to people again in a true environment, then feel free to try it out or try it out in an online environment. Yeah, so I'll give the floor back to Manu because it's a lovely conversation we're having with Russ. So yeah, let's go back to that.
Oh, absolutely. So, so what we actually wanted to talk about a bit more, wanted to show as well, because that seems to be the topic of today, is connectedness and systems thinking. And we wanted to do this by showing you how one thing, for example, like sugar or an ice cream or like one of the SDGs can be connected to many, many, many things. And actually, I had a question about that for Russ, because you seem to be approaching sustainability and sustainable development from many different angles and with quite some different propositions as well, businesses. And I wondered, like, do you see this on a daily basis? Because you're working on several projects. Do you witness this disconnectedness, this systems thinking approach to sustainability?
Yeah, definitely. And I would say probably the best example to give is a sustainability consultancy client of mine, which I think I mentioned earlier, because they specifically consult the commercial real estate sector. And the interconnectedness that I see there is the very holistic approach they take to making buildings greener and more sustainable, because they provide a broad range of different services, and you don't realize at first glance how many different factors come into play if you actually want to make the commercial real estate assets sustainable. So they do technical due diligence work and environmental due diligence work, but they also do a lot of ESG work for them, so environmental, social, and governance, because actually a truly sustainable building is not just one which is super energy efficient and has its certifications in like LEED and BREEAM and things like that. It's also one which thinks about the local area where it's being constructed and what knock-on effects that has on the society in the immediate vicinity around the building, for example, which is super interesting. You can overlap it with the sustainable development goals as well. So the most obvious SDG, which a sustainable building would address, would be goal number 11. By the way, I have got them up in front of me. I haven't memorized all of them yet, just in case anyone was wondering. I'm not ashamed to admit it at all. So they are right here on my computer. So goal number 11 is sustainable cities and communities. So that would be a big one for making our buildings greener and healthier. But actually, if you're doing the job really well and you're looking holistically at all parts of it, you can actually be talking about goal number 3, which is good health and well-being, because that's a vital component of buildings. There's the thousands and millions of workers who are working in these buildings around the world in terms of commercial real estate. Obviously, residential property is another one. Clean water and sanitation, decent work and economic growth, because if the buildings are better, they attract more companies to work in them and to rent the office space. Industry innovation and infrastructure is goal number 9. And yeah, there are probably a few more in there. Obviously, climate action is a really obvious one. So I really love how there are probably more examples of the clients I work with, but I would say, yeah, a big one is the knock-on effect that some of these big corporate sustainability consultancies have when they're doing their job really well and looking holistically at their clients' problems. So, you know, the good ones would be not just the people who, when the client comes to them and says, oh, we're looking to reduce our energy spend in this building, it's like, well, we can help you with that. That's not a problem. But have you also thought about this, and this? Because that's when it gets really interesting, and that's when you're going to have a truly sustainable building, which is great in lots of different areas. And obviously, as we all know, the SDGs are just such a great framework to follow when it's such a big topic, because then at least we have 17 goals that we can look at and work out which ones we're working towards achieving.
And when you said, like, once you have to consider one of them, you consider the next one and the next one and the next one. And that is actually also, for me, that is when, like, okay, innovation challenges, like, that we have to start thinking about, like, how can we do things differently? How can we approach things differently? Do you often run into these kind of challenges when you're working with your clients, and like maybe you're asking more from them than they go beyond marketing and they go beyond telling a story? Are they often willing to do this, or do you still have this reluctance to go?
Well, yeah. So I mean, unfortunately, and I think this is just always going to be the case, there are just some clients who are way more forward thinking than others. And obviously that all stems from the leadership. So it all stems from the person in charge, because that affects the culture of the whole business and what their goals and objectives are. But I'm very lucky to work with some businesses which are really forward thinking. So they are interested to hear all bits of advice and all angles of different things that they could be doing better. So if I overlay that into the marketing world, actually what that looks like is them being more adventurous with what they're willing to do, which usually look in their marketing, I mean. So that usually looks like willing to be less like playing it safe and corporate, and actually willing to do things that are new to them and maybe a little bit scary, but which they think, based on my advice, obviously, will help them to reach a wider audience. So it might be like something as simple as using video content if they're a company which hasn't used video content before to reach its target audience. And that might seem quite arbitrary, but actually there's a really good reason that I use that example. And that's because today consumers want to see authenticity from the brands that they buy from, right? It's super important to people now. They can see through greenwash, they can see through corporate bullshit, and they want to see authenticity and transparency in a company's marketing and communications efforts. And the reason that video content is so good to do that is because it's actually very hard to hide behind, talking into a camera, whereas hiding behind words that you can type in a LinkedIn post or a tweet or whatever is really easy. Whereas actually people, turning up on camera, like the CEO of a company turning up on camera to do a video, is a much more difficult thing to do, because most of us aren't good actors, right? So it's much harder to hide. To overlay that into politics, by the way, Jacinda Ardern, she's the Prime Minister of New Zealand. So she does these amazing video updates. Yeah, exactly. Everyone loves Jacinda, right? I love Jacinda. She's amazing. So she does these amazing videos to camera, and she posts them on LinkedIn. It's like, if you can tell me another world leader that does that and does it as well as she can, then please let me know, because I certainly haven't seen anyone. And people love her for it, because she looks like a real person. She looks like a human. She doesn't look like a corporate robot like the rest of the world leaders do. And she looks right at you into the camera, and she smiles, and she tells you what they're doing as an update. And she's loved as a result. And that can totally be overlaid to businesses in their marketing efforts in terms of what people want to see. So yeah.
Completely agree. Yeah, video. It's cool as well to see that video marketing is playing a bigger role, not only in having companies explain like their goals and what they stand for, but also in communicating, for example, like sustainability reports, or making very hard to grasp technical details and this quite complex challenge that we're facing. Yeah, more reachable for people, and also something that again can engage with, because in the end, I think we have discussed this as well before, like we can't expect everyone to be like sustainability professor and to know exactly what to buy and where to buy it and to know everything about everything, because it's systems thinking, and that just means that it's as well, it's complex and there are a lot of details to it, so having people to
And
get
also,
on board.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, just again, like this is from a proper like marketing point of view now. And I know, we're not here to talk specifically about marketing, but like if anyone out there is running their own business or, is interested in marketing tips, like you should absolutely introduce video content into your marketing if you haven't tried it yet, because I can't think of a single sector really where it wouldn't be relevant for you, because obviously you've got a range of different channels where you can share that video and you can get across far more information, far more authentically in a 30-second or 3-minute video than you can in reams and reams of text that you would have to, write to say the same message. It's just a really great medium, and it's good that it's being used more, because consumers want it and appreciate it, and businesses can reap the rewards of doing it. And obviously if they are sustainability focused businesses, then that's great, because they're the ones who deserve to have the attention and have the volume turned up. So yeah.
Absolutely. So now we're actually sort of moving on to advices. So I'm just gonna like loop back to a question that was asked at the beginning of the call. Someone asked, like, how would you recommend someone who is unschooled in the field of sustainability to get a career in ecological or sustainability today? As you mentioned before that you've sort of did this, like you managed. So how would you advise other people to do the same?
So guys, I honestly, like, believe me when I say that there's a huge element of luck to how my journey started, in terms of like to where I've got now. So for other people, like now, I mean, although I didn't do it, my advice would be that if you haven't got the academic qualifications to try and get a career in, sorry, what was the example? Like ecological conservation or something. Yeah. So, you're on the one hand, it's going to be difficult if you don't have the academic background, because you'll be competing for those jobs with graduates who have a relevant degree in that field. So that's obviously going to be difficult, but all hope is not lost if you don't, because you just need to try and get a foot in the door in any way you can. And a great way to do that, which I can talk from personal experiences about, is investing in yourself and your personal brand, because actually now in 2020, personal branding plays a huge role in the doors that you can open for yourself and the opportunities that you can open for yourself. So let's just say, for example, that we had 2 more or less identical candidates and applicants for a job, right? Same kind of level of experience, same academic background, but one of them has a really, really strong personal brand because they have invested time in publishing content to their social media platforms. Maybe they've got their own website to which they blog to regularly about their own thoughts and opinions on the specific sector that they're looking to get a job in. Maybe they're really active on LinkedIn, for example, and they have a really strong LinkedIn profile, and they're sharing their own opinions and thought leadership on the subject matter, in this case, like, environmental conservation, that they're trying to get into. That candidate is going to look much, much stronger to the potential employer than the candidate who's got the same qualifications but doesn't have a strong online presence to prove that they are really passionate about that area. So I would say building up your personal brand is, honestly, guys, it's done wonders for me. In fact, like the reason that I'm here talking to you now is because of my personal brand, because, you know, I'm really active on LinkedIn, which is how I met like Sebastian, which is how I met Minu, which is how I got invited onto this. So yeah, I've got loads of like different examples of what I could, say for it. But for me, having a strong personal brand helped me get jobs that I've applied for in the past. And since I left to go solo back in 2018, it's led to really great PR opportunities, like podcast interviews, magazine interviews, stuff like that. So I would start there. And the great thing about having starting your personal branding journey with the age of the internet and social media is that you can literally start tomorrow, and there are no barriers to entry. Like it's your brand, it's you, it's putting your name out there, it's marketing yourself. That's what it's all about. So anyone can get started.
That is absolutely true. I mean, both me and Pamela have not been educated in sustainability in that formal way as well. We just got really interested in it, dived into the rabbit hole, and started exploring and started organizing these sessions. And indeed, through that, like, we met Sebastian, we met you, and that is all due to just, actually hopping on LinkedIn and getting over that first fear of like, oh, what am I doing here, and who am I going to talk to? And in the end, like, once you start doing that, it sort of rolls out itself. And you sort of get just sucked into a certain sector, a certain interest that can go into like any direction. Actually, Boudewijn has a question on this. He asked, what do you think that are important factors for becoming successful in personal branding?
Yeah, so thanks to Justin. Justin just answered it for me. So I was absolutely going to say, I was genuinely going to say, because it's the thing that I always tell everyone before I saw Justin's message. So to everything, there is no silver bullet, but actually if you had to choose one, it would be consistency, because you've got to just keep showing up. So if you use, for example, something that might really like put a damper on your enthusiasm, might be publishing what you think is going to be a really great post to LinkedIn. Like, it's going to be your best post yet. You're going to get loads of likes and meaningful comments and really great engagement. And then what happens? You publish it and it's terrible. You get like 3 likes and one of them's your mum and the other 2 are like irrelevant people, and you're just like, oh my God, this is terrible. I'm going to stop, I'm never going to post again. It's like, no, you've just got to get back on the horse, keep publishing content. The consistency over time is what will get you noticed. People will expect to go on a channel, whatever your preferred channel is, whether you're a blogger or whether it's LinkedIn or whether you're an Instagrammer, a tweeter, whatever your kind of primary channel is, YouTube. That's where you need to keep turning up. So for me, it's very much LinkedIn. So why am I so active on LinkedIn? The answer is really simple. I get all my business and meet all the cool people that I meet through LinkedIn. I don't meet anyone through Instagram in my world, like maybe like a couple of people. But my channel, where I get all my results and I meet like-minded people and get business opportunities, all comes through LinkedIn. So I am really active on LinkedIn for that reason, to build my personal brand on that channel, so people know where to find me. Like, I don't blog to the website, to the Avery and Brown or Elodie website. I just write LinkedIn posts. That's my blogging, and actually that's where I can reach a much bigger audience as well than relying on web traffic trying to find me on a website where you're competing with millions. On LinkedIn or whatever platform you use, some of you guys might have heard the term like building a tribe, which is a term that Seth Godin, I think, used, and that's what it's all about. Like, you want to build a tribe of people that you're trying to attract around you through the content that you publish. And believe me when I say that it will happen if you are publishing authentic content, which you really believe in. That's when the magic will happen. If you're doing that on a consistent basis, you will attract the kind of people that you're looking to attract, which is maybe people that you're looking to do business with, who are clients, or people who you just want to meet to have great conversations like this, to talk about your favorite topic, sustainability. It's honestly amazing. And guys, the other tip that I have to give you, because it's so true, is that when you publish content, right, you genuinely only think that the people who like it or comment on it are the ones who have seen it, right? Because they're the ones who have actually engaged with it. But the amazing thing that I have learned, which I need to remind myself about daily, is that you never know who is reading or watching your content. And then one day, out of the blue, someone reaches out to you and they say, "Hey, Russ, I've watched all your LinkedIn videos and I've read all your posts, and I really want to have a chat about this." And you're like, "Well, I never would have known it because you've never liked a single one of my posts and you've never commented." But some people just don't engage. That's just what you have to accept. So just because they're not hitting that like button or commenting, it doesn't mean they're not there and watching what you're putting out and reading what you're putting out. So yeah, that's my kind of really quick tips in a nutshell.
Awesome, thanks. We kind of moved into that direction. I expected that because people are always like, they feel quite strongly about your the sustainability marketing guy name, and it's really catchy. It's such a yeah, cool way of showing that indeed, like, it really works. Like, personal branding really works, and people will remember you. And yeah, I actually refer more to you as the sustainability marketing guy than I refer to you as Russ Avery, which is probably a good sign, right?
So by the way, the sustainability marketing guy is so much about personal brand. I forgot to tell you where it even came from. So I didn't come up with that. I was at a sustainability, like, corporate sustainability conference, and I was chatting to someone, and they introduced me to someone who came along at the networking break to like say hi to them, and they said, "Oh, here, this is Russ. He's the sustainability marketing guy." And I was like, "Ting! That is awesome. I'm so taking that. That's my headline. That's my LinkedIn bio. That's everything now. That's just the way it is." So, you know, what other people say about you is obviously who you are, right? That's your personal brand. So that was just the light bulb moment when that event happened.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's awesome that
story.
someone else gives you that name. Then you know it's true. You didn't just come up with it yourself, but it's actually
Exactly.
yeah, and it will stick. I think we're gonna end on this light bulb moment notion, because we are approaching the almost 9. So we have been at this for like 70 minutes, which is quite a long time to look at a Zoom. But it was absolutely awesome for having you on. I really enjoyed it. This is the first time that we just skipped over all the exercises that we wanted to do, which we normally are really excited about, but we're like, no, this conversation is just too awesome to like let go. So we just continued. So super thankful for that.
On that note, we'll do that exercise next month.
Yes, because it is actually a pretty awesome one about systems thinking, and it really fit like what we have been talking about today. But it would have taken us like 30 minutes or so to really dive deep into it. But that one is a cool one. So that means that probably next month we're going to be talking about sustainability and systems thinking again, or something in that direction.
Cool.
If anyone has any other questions, please drop them in the chat, or like raise your hand, or just like unmute yourself. And if not, then we're just gonna wrap up.
I can answer a question from the chat quickly, which Justin dropped in, which was about, is it better to repurpose and increase the standards of existing buildings rather than create new buildings? And it's a really good question. And actually, I wish I could I'll try and find an article about it, but the answer is that retrofitting our existing buildings is so much more important than building new buildings. And it actually touches on what we talked about earlier, which is that we can now make really super sustainable buildings. We really can. Like, humans can do anything when we put our mind to it, right? But you're still using resources, like it's like we talked about earlier. And on buildings, that happens at a massive scale, obviously, especially if we're talking like commercial buildings and skyscrapers and stuff. So retrofitting our existing buildings and making them more sustainable through insulation and renewable energy technologies and everything else we can do is absolutely imperative to reducing the 40% of global CO2 emissions that buildings account for. And that applies to our homes, by the way, as well as the commercial side of things. So we can all do things, and there's I can drop a link to a really good blog about that one of my clients wrote, which is like the 10 easiest, quickest and cheapest things that we can all do to make our homes more sustainable.
I read that blog. That's actually quite an interesting one. So yes, definitely drop that link in. It's from Mesh, right?
It's from Mesh. And by the way, I'll do a little teaser. One of those 10 tips is just to wear more clothes inside the house, which is so obvious, but people don't do it because we will sacrifice being comfortable for spending more money on our energy bill because we want to walk around the house in our underwear or whatever instead of putting on a jumper. So and then the other tips are really quick and easy as well. So yeah. And Justin's wearing a body warmer. So there you go.
There you go. Do you actually know that in Holland we have an awareness day for this, which is called the Warm Jumper Day?
Yeah. They turn off the heaters one day at all the high
there's a
schools.
day. Yeah, they're campaigning about it.
Yeah.
Turn off the heat, and then so you have to come in an extra warm jumper or bring two or whatever, or your silly Christmas jumper. I don't know, whatever you want to do. But yeah.
The Netherlands has some really cool days, because there's another one that someone mentioned a few weeks ago, and I was like, they have a day for that? That's amazing. It was probably you, wasn't it? Right, Sustainable Tuesday.
Well, we have a
Sustainable Tuesday. We have that. I hope we do. That sounds awesome.
Sustainable Tuesday.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Duurzaame Yeah.
Oh, Sustainable Tuesday. I heard Sustainable Cheese Day. I was like, that would be awesome. Like a sustainable day for cheese. Oh, no. Yeah. Duurzame Dinsdag. Yes,
that would be so niche.
Maybe Brad should start that as part of his new marketing campaign.
We should really do
We
that.
had Brad from Willy Croft, the vegan cheese, with us a while ago.
Yeah. No, we do have Sustainable Cheese Day. We should actually all eat sustainable cheese on Sustainable Tuesday. Yes. That would be just the best. Just watch it the whole day, watch that conference, and that would be awesome. It's actually, I think we should loop this back to Brett. That's actually quite a good idea. Yeah, let's do that.
I think so. Good point.
Yeah, but we do have some pretty great days. But you actually said something really interesting. Is that it's really obvious to put on more clothes, but that is with a lot of sustainability tweaks that you can make in your life. Once you say them or once you pay attention to them, they're like, that is actually so obvious. Yeah, of course it works like that, but often we just don't think of it. And that is why, for me, sustainability marketing is also so interesting. That it's not per se about getting people to buy more stuff, but also just changing consumer behavior and changing the way we buy, what we buy and whatever we buy, just by educating people. Because in the end, sustainability marketing feels for me about educating people about sustainability. And then marketing changes from something that a lot of people perceive as almost evil to something that can actually have a great positive impact on the world.
Yeah, so we absolutely have to be, marketers, and I'm obviously not just saying this because it's what I do for a living, but marketers play an absolutely vital role, because the brands and the businesses which are trying to do good, they still need to get their messages out there. So they need marketers to help them spread the awareness. So I love it. And, we didn't even really talk about, the importance of storytelling and stuff in this because of everything else we were talking about. But, you have to be really clever to get buy-in from so many different people, right? Because with sustainability, everyone is affected. Everyone. That's what's so cool. You're not just trying to sell, a specific product to a specific consumer group. We are all stakeholders in the climate crisis and the protection of the planet. We all matter. We all care. We all should care. And sure, some people don't, but you can make them care if you find the right message and angle which tugs on their heartstrings and which they which makes the emotional connection with them. You just need to find out what that is through through trial and error and clever marketing. So that's why I love it.
Yeah, I loved your example the other day about like when I asked why do you love sustainability so much? And it's like there is something in it for everyone, and it's all connected. And like you can even make the guy who only cares about beer and playing PlayStation care about sustainability. I was like, that is a pretty cool approach to it, because you're absolutely right. There is something in it for everyone. You just have to find out like, yeah, which strings to pull actually.
Yeah, so it's an example that my someone like actually asked me, which is why it's my example. So they said, but how do you make someone who will say to you, but seriously, Russ, in life, I only really care about drinking beer, eating pizza, and playing my Xbox. And it's like, I'll tell you how. If the climate crisis goes like all the scientists are telling us to do, if we don't take radical action, you won't be able to drink beer because there will be no barley and hops and fresh water to make that beer. And as for your pizza, well, what ingredients do you like on it? Because, actually, what's the dough made out of? Maybe that won't be around, and maybe your favorite toppings won't be around because we can't grow the vegetables anymore for it because temperatures have increased so much. And as for playing your computer, maybe we'll have huge energy blackouts and stuff, so you won't have any electricity to even turn on the TV or the Xbox. I just love it. You can always find a way in to tell someone why they should care about fighting the climate crisis and sustainability. Yeah,
it's awesome. Yeah, and then make them actually do, like you said, everyone should care. That everyone does care, but we can get there, and especially with enough sustainability marketing guys, maybe you should make start a sustainability marketing league or something. They have a sustainability army, and then we'll get there, I'm sure.
I really need to I need to trademark the name so that no one else can use it.
I think you really should. Yes, absolutely.
Maybe I'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely do this. I do think we're gonna have to end this conversation. We can keep going on for hours. There's so much to discuss when it comes to sustainability, and actually, indeed, we haven't even covered storytelling, which is also a super interesting topic that I think a lot of us are quite psyched about. But yeah, thank you a lot, so much for coming on tonight for a super interesting discussion. For everyone for the fired up chat box, that was pretty awesome to see as well. We will share the Miro link and the YouTube link of the recording to everyone who signed up, so you can just go ahead and look at the Miro board as well and maybe see what we were planning on doing and what we have been doing with the game. And of course, watch the YouTube recording back in case you missed any of the beautiful nudges and quotes of today.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for inviting me, guys. I've had it's been so much fun, and the time has gone by really quickly, which is always a really good sign of a good conversation.
Absolutely.
If you want to share your LinkedIn profile, as I'm leaning in with Russ here. If you want to share your LinkedIn profile, please, you can go ahead and drop that in the chat and other people can connect with you. And maybe give you a like or an engage or a comment on whatever on the post that you are going to post next time when you go on LinkedIn, because everybody, of course, is now going to do that. Yeah. Making use of Russ's tips.
Yeah. You can find all the links to Russ's several websites and his LinkedIn profile on the Miro board as well. I can also drop them in here, actually. I'll send everything in an email over. We'll just send you a bunch of links.
Oh, that's better.
So everyone has everything, and we can always connect later. It's already in the chat as well. So yes, thank you a lot, and I hope to see more of you in the next session where we're going to dive into systems thinking again, apparently. So that's going to be awesome. Have a great rest of the evening then.
All right, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, guys. Had a great time.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Ciao, ciao.